Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hivemind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. And less these days, I have to do my job. The complete beauty of Joe Biden's downfall, his inevitable demise, his self-destruction, as we should probably put it, is that it's so indefensible, it's so obviously a failure, that the phony media has no other choice but to rebuke what the Biden administration is doing and saying, ideas that they're pushing, and it is absolutely glorious. Once again, Joe Biden is getting hammered in the press. I've been keeping track since he took office. There's been some artificial, phony articles written to fluff up Joe Biden, to powder his baby bottom. But in reality, outside of those fluff pieces, he hasn't had a single good day in the press. He hasn't had one major win with the American people, and it's reflected in his poll numbers, which are continuously trending downward. He hasn't had one big moment that's given him a boost. The complete opposite of what we saw with Donald Trump, which was constantly going up and down and up and down and up and down. It would go down as the media would come up with some slanderous hit piece on him, and then the moment Donald Trump was vindicated, he would just start flying off. With Joe, it's just going down. And the more he screws up, the more the media has to cover it, and of course, it's a downward spiral, and Joe is getting flushed down along with it. Alright folks, so Jen Psaki has been doing her best to try to defend Joe Biden's claims about the voter suppression, the quote, voter suppression happening in the state of Georgia. Apparently, voter expansion and voter security is voter suppression. I don't know exactly how. But regardless of that, of course, Jen Psaki has been doing everything in her power to try to spin it in some way to make it seem as if the Democrats are on the right side of this issue. They are not. And the National Desk just completely demolished Joe Biden in one of their segments, completely debunking the fallacies that the Biden administration is pushing. Check this out.
And this information from Washington. The Washington Post gave President Biden 4 Pinocchios, the worst rating on his fact-checking scale, for this statement he made about new voting hours in Georgia. Twice.
Deciding that you're going to end voting at 5 o'clock when working people are just getting off work.
The new Georgia law doesn't change Election Day voting hours. The new law does set early voting hours from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., but individual counties have the option to extend early voting from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. To find all of the facts, our team decided to dig into this 98-page bill. We discovered some parts of the new Georgia voting law that gives voters more flexibility than other states. Under the new law, there will be 17 days of early voting, more days in several other states like New York, which has 9. Georgia permits no excuse absentee voting, meaning anyone can request an absentee ballot for any reason. That's not the case in places like Delaware and Massachusetts. And for the first time, drop boxes are guaranteed under law.
Totally demolished. The only argument that the Democrats have is that they're slightly restricting mail-in ballots. They're not just immediately mailing them out. You can still request them. You just need to provide ID. They're viewing that as voter suppression, specifically targeted towards minority communities. But of course, it isn't. It's just a difference of opinion. Some view mail-in ballots as ripe for issues. And so it's their perspective that if you're going to vote absentee, that there should be a process of security before it. It's voter security. The left has no argument on this, and their claims that it's targeted towards a specific group of people, a specific race, is if anything racist themselves, considering they're essentially implying that minorities don't know how to request a ballot or don't have state ID. And so the more time goes on, the more their arguments seem to crumble, and the more fact checkers, news organizations are dismantling the Democrat narrative. Now the next one is Joe Biden's border crisis, which continues to be an absolute disaster. Here's a live segment from KUSI San Diego reporting on Biden's border crisis.
Brutal, but the bottom line is that, there is a crisis happening at our border right now, and the policies of the Biden administration essentially say, come on in. And I showed you this list at 4 o'clock, and this is the list of countries of all the people that are coming in. This isn't just Central America and Mexico. The word got out that the doors are open, and this list the Border Patrol made for me, it starts with Africa and Chile and Ecuador, El Salvador, Ethiopia, Guatemala, India, Pakistan, Somalia, Armenia, Brazil, Cuba. It goes on and on. Russia, Nigeria, Costa Rica, Haiti, and Colombia. So people are coming from all over the world because they realize that if they get on this side of the border, the life is going to be different.
The exact quote that the journalist says is the word got out that the doors are open. I wonder where they got that idea from.
I would, in fact, make sure that we immediately surge to the border.
Definitely not Biden. No, it can't be. Joe Biden's complete lack of being careful or calculated in his rhetoric definitely did not lead to migrant apprehensions being up 72% in 1 month, up 450% from last March. Year over year, March 2020 to March 2021, over nearly 500% in terms of border apprehensions. And of course, what does that mean for people that are not being apprehended? The point that we always mention. And speaking of things going up, as frankly most of the modern world is headed out of a recession, the US of course is no exception. What does Joe Biden do with the economy? Biden suggests increasing taxes on individuals and corporations. During a recovery, Biden tax increases could cause major job losses and economic harm, says study. According to a study done by the National Association of Manufacturers, President Joe Biden's proposed corporate tax hike to pay for his infrastructure plan could cost the country 1 million jobs, the Independent Journal Review reports. The study conducted by Rice University economists John W. Diamond and George R. Zodrow discovered that if the proposed policies went into effect, the increased corporate tax rate would result in less economic activity and 1 million jobs lost in the first 2 years. I'm telling you, this man is on record pace. He's trying so hard to shatter records as being the worst jobs president in world history. 1 million jobs in 2 years. And by the way, jobless claims unexpectedly jumped to 744,000, much worse than expected. New week jobless claims rose to 744,000 for the week that ended April 3rd, the Department of Labor said Thursday. Economists had forecast a decline of 680,000 from the previous week's 719, meaning the trend was expected to be ameliorating rather than getting worse. Turns out, nope. This is the second consecutive week in which initial jobless claims moved up in contradiction to expectations. The upper end of the range of forecasts in the economy survey was 705,000, 40,000 more than the bad end, the worst case economists were expecting, and 25,000 more than the previous week. The question is, does this have something to do with Joe Biden's policies? Probably. Corporations looking to cut as much fat as possible, thinking there's a possibility that they might have to pay much higher taxes headed forward. But I mean, what do you expect with Joe Biden at the head of the ship, Joe Biden at the helm? Did you expect that numbers were going to be his strong suit? Of course not. We all know Joe Biden's relationship with numbers now, do we?
Out of $1.6 trillion worth, $1.4 trillion. Out of $1.4 billion, $740 billion over 10 years.
And of course, that trend of Joe Biden and his complete inability to understand numbers whatsoever continues. His speech from yesterday. He said this: Grandpa Joe says planes can go 21,000 miles per hour, making New York to LA in a 7-minute ride. Biden touts trains as fast as planes and supersonic jets in infrastructure push. A supersonic jet with ridiculous G-forces breaking the sound barrier. If we just do a quick little Google search for aircraft speeds which are greater than the speed of sound, the aircraft is said to be supersonic. The typical speeds for a supersonic aircraft are greater than 750 miles per hour, but less than 1,500. 750 to 1,500. That's breakneck speed. That's incredible speed. Joe Biden, of course, we know that he promised that he was going to cure cancer.
If I'm elected president, you're going to see the single most important thing that changes in America is we're going to cure cancer.
And now he's promising 21,000 miles per hour on commercial jets to make local flights. I mean, how long would it even take to slow down or to stop a 21,000 mile per hour jet? What kind of material would it take to just stop that jet from spontaneous combustion in the atmosphere in the first place? You know, I try not to be mean as much as I can. I try to stick to just analysis, but the reality is when it comes to Joe, he's just a dummy. I think a lot of it has to do with his old age, but this is the current predicament. We tried warning him, no one listened, but now they have absolutely no choice but to listen as the whole house is crumbling down and people are finally being made aware of the reality that we knew this entire time. Joe is unfit for office. That's the video that I got for you guys. If you enjoyed it, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We're still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. Now I gotta get back to work. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.